I'm going to be in next week. Probably not Monday. But my plan is to be in at least a couple of days next week. Midterm. So do some midterm review next week. For sure. All right. Let's turn to Canto 14. So we're still in this seventh circle of hell, where sins of violence were being punished. First two subsections of the seventh circle of hell were what? What are the two parts of the seventh circle we had so far? Say it again?
The first one is Kuskupisen.
No, within the seventh circle. So we're in the middle violence section.
Was killing. Violence against the other.
Right, violence against others in the phlegathon. What's the phlegathon? What is the punishment here?
That's in the river of blood.
Right, the river of boiling blood. Blood. This is Canto. What is it? That's 12. Boiling blood. What people did we see there? What characters did we see there besides Dante and Virgil? In Canto 12.
The centaur.
The centaurs.
And
the Minotaur. And which two centaurs are named here? One starts with a C.
Oh, yeah.
Chiron.
And Nessus.
And Nessus, yes. Chiron and Nessus. Right. And they cross the river on Nessus. Nessus carries them across. So it's 11:39. This class is supposed to start at 11:30. What? You can't take a 10-minute restroom trip between classes that don't have a break between them. All right, then Canto 13, we got the second part of the seventh circle, which is what?
Violence against
Violence against the self. How do we describe this? So the phlegathon is that river of boiling blood. The first part of this one we call, well, what does it look like?
The souls are inside trees.
Right, yeah, the wood of the suicides. And here we have violence against self. Canto 13. Whom do we meet here? Or what figures do we see here? First, some mythological figures.
Harpies.
The Harpies. What soul do they speak with? Remember his name? You should be familiar with his name, even though it's not mentioned in the text.
Pierre de Lavigne.
Yes. This advisor to the emperor, who, when people turned against him and turned the emperor against him, he took his own life, seen here. We also see the souls of the profligate. Then we actually get their names. Remember, they're being chased by these dogs through the forest, and they're destroying things as they go, mirroring this destruction in life. Not only are they themselves being destroyed by these dogs when they catch them, ripping out chunks of their flesh, but also they are just actively destroying the bushes as they run through them and fall through them and trip through them. They're breaking off these branches. Think like these really dry, crackly bushes. You touch them and pieces break off. All right, yes. Now, the third section we're going to get here in Canto 14. So, if you open up your books to Well, so on page 148, you get the map of this portion of hell. Page 148, we'll take another look there. So we already crossed the ring 1, the phlegathon, violence against neighbors. We went through ring 2, wood of the suicides, violent against self. Now we're in ring 3, the burning sand we're going to have here. I think this is my favorite image of the 3, burning sand. All right, so we'll find Canto 14 on page 196. Canto 14, read the summary there, and then we'll start going through the text. Here's a copy of questions. They come to the edge of the wood of the suicides, where they see before them a stretch of burning sand, upon which flames reign eternally, and through which a stream of boiling blood is carried in a raised channel filled with formed of rock. There, many groups of tortured souls are on the burning sand. Virgil explains that those lying supine on the ground are blasphemers. Those crouching are usurers, and those wandering aimlessly, never stopping, are the sodomites. Representative of the blasphemers is Capaneus, who died cursing his god. The pilgrim questions his guide about the source of the river of boiling blood. Virgil's reply contains the most elaborate symbol in the Inferno, that of the old man of Crete, whose tears are the source of all the rivers in hell. The love we both shared for our native city moved me to gather up the scattered leaves and give them back to the voice that now had faded. We reached the confines of the woods that separate the second from the third round. There I saw God's justice in its dreadful operation. Now, to picture clearly these unheard of things, we arrived to face an open stretch of flatland, whose soil refused the roots of any plant. The grieving forest made a wreath around it as the sad river of blood enclosed the woods. We stopped right here, right at the borderline. This wasteland was a dry expanse of sand, thick, burning sand, no different from the kind that Cato's feet packed down in other times. O just revenge of God, how awesomely you should be feared by everyone who reads these truths that were revealed to my own eyes. Many separate herds of naked souls I saw, all weeping desperately. It seemed each group had been assigned a different penalty. Some souls were stretched out flat upon their backs. Others were crouching there all tightly hunched. Some wandered, never stopping, round and round. Far more there were of those who roamed the sand, and fewer were the souls stretched out to suffer, but their tongues were looser, for their pain was greater. And all over that sandland, a fall of slowly raining broad flakes of fire showered steadily, a mountain snowstorm on a windless day. Like those that Alexander saw descending on his troops while crossing India's torrid lands, flames falling, floating, solid to the ground. And he with all his men began to tread the sand so that the burning flames might be extinguished one by one before they joined. Here too a never-ending blaze descended, kindling the sand like tinder under flint sparks. And in this way, the torment there was doubled. Without a moment's rest, the rhythmic dance of wretched hands went on, this side, that side, brushing away the freshly fallen flames. What does Dante see here when they reach the edge of the wood there? Notice, at the very beginning of the canto, he's actually finishing up with the Word of the Suicides, gathering these leaves for this soul from Florence that they had spoken to at the end of Canto 13. But then once they reach the edge of the forest, what does he see?
A burning stretch of sand.
Right, this flat land. Doesn't have hills, it doesn't have valleys, it's just flat. And it's all sand. Not only is it sand, what else is happening? Say it again?
There are people that have many different functions.
Yes, there are people on the sand. What are they doing, these different souls on the sand? Dante tells us Say it again?
They're tortured by the sand, by the burning sand.
Right, the sand is hot. Not only is the sand, why is the sand hot? Not the sun. No sun in hell. But yes, I mean, we get this image of hot burning sand. You go to the beach on a sunny day and you're barefoot on the sand and it burns your feet. But here, why is this sand hot? Not because of the sun. What's heating this sand up? What does Dante say in lines 28 to 30? Yes, flakes of fire. He says it's like a snowstorm, but of fire falling on the sand. And he says that these flakes of fire, when they fall, they light the sand on fire. Lines 37 to 39. Here too a never-ending blaze descended, kindling the sand, lighting it on fire, like tinder under the flint sparks. And in this way the torment there was double. So we've got this sand, we've got fire falling from the sky, or falling from above, and setting the sand alight. And the souls here on the sand, what are they doing? What are these souls on the sand doing? They're doing different things. Don tells us at the top of page 197. The lines 19 to 27. How? I mean, obviously the sand is burning, but there's something different about the way that these groups are being punished. Many separate herds, line 19, of naked souls I saw, all weeping desperately. It seemed each group had been assigned a different penalty. Some souls were stretched out flat upon their backs. Others were crouching there, all tightly hunched. Some wandered, never stopping round and round. Far more there were of those who roamed the sand, and fewer were the souls stretched out to suffer, but their tongues were looser, for the pain was greater. And over all that sandland, a fall of slowly raining broad flakes of fire showered steadily. So how do these souls look different?
Different punishment.
They're in different positions. What are the three positions these souls are in?
Right. They're all naked. Standing, lying, sitting.
Yeah, so they're naked, as this fire is raining on them. Some are stretched out flat on their backs. Some are crouching on the ground. So not quite sitting, but crouching. They're like squatting. And then some are wandering around, never stopping, round and round. Which one of these groups is being punished the most? Which of these is the worst punishment? Which one has the greater pain?
No. The soul was just
Right. Fewer were the souls stretched out to suffer, but their tongues were looser, for the pain was greater. So we have three groups here. And we'll put them in order of the severity of their punishment. Well, let's see. Let's take a look at one of these souls here, and then we'll talk about the particular sins being punished and the sort of category of sins being punished here. Line 43. And I, my master, you who overcome all opposition, except for those tough demons who came to meet us at the gate of Dis, who is that mighty one that seems unbothered by burning, stretched sullen and disdainful there, looking as if the rainfall could not tame him? And that very one who was quick to notice me, inquiring of my guide about him, answered, "What I was once alive, I still am dead. Let Jupiter wear out his smith, from whom he seized in anger that sharp thunderbolt he hurled to strike me down, my final day. Let him wear out those others one by one who work the soot-black forge of Mongibello, as he shouts, 'Help me, good Vulcan, I need your help,' the way he cried that time at Phlegra's battle. And with all his force, let him hurl his bolts at me. No joy of satisfaction will I give him." My guide spoke back at him with cutting force. I never heard his voice so strong before. O Capaneus, since your blustering pride will not be stilled, you are made to suffer more. No torment other than your rage itself could punish your gnawing pride more perfectly. And then he turned a calmer face to me, saying, that was a king, one of the 7 besieging Thebes. He scorned, and would seem still to go on scorning God and treat him lightly. But as I said to him, he decks his chest with ornaments of lavish words that prick him. Now follow me and also pay attention not to put your feet upon the burning sand, but to keep them well within the wooded line. Okay, this soul that they see here, what position is he in and who is he? What's his name? What position is this soul here that they look at? That they speak to? He's stretched out. But he seems not to be bothered by this. He says, who's that guy over there? Seems unbothered by burning. Stretched, sullen, and disdainful there. Like he's better than this. Looking as if the rainfall could not tame him. So he's in this third and worst group, or the one getting the worst punishment. But it's actually the first one that Dante introduces. And what's his name? You catch his name there? Say it again?
Capaneus.
Yes, Capaneus. Virgil gives us his name. And do you catch what his sin was that landed him here in hell?
Violence against God.
In what sense?
Nature.
What did Capaneus do? How did he end up here? Virgil tells Dante in lines 68 to 72. You can also look at the sorts of things that he said, that his soul says in lines 51 to 60. Also give us some information about what it was that he did. What is Capaneus saying here? The top of 198. The lines 51 to 54, primarily.
He probably was wrong because this chapter there was
Right, so he's talking here about Jupiter. Actually, he was a Greek, but Virgil here is using the Roman name for this god, Jupiter. What's the Greek name for this god? Zeus, right. And what does Capaneus have to say about Jupiter, about Zeus? Let him wear out his smith, from whom he seized in anger that sharp thunderbolt he hurled, to strike me down my final day. Let him wear out those others one by one. Then in line 59, and with all his force, let him hurl his bolts at me. No joy of satisfaction would I give him. What's he saying about Jupiter? What does he want Jupiter to do? What does he say he can go ahead and do?
like he's speaking to Jupiter and saying that he can attack him with the thunderbolt.
Right. And we learn in lines 53 and 54 that Jupiter had thrown this thunderbolt at him to kill him. That sharp thunderbolt he hurled to strike me down my final day. And he says, go ahead, let him throw more. Let him use up his whole supply of thunderbolts and tell the people who make them for him Help me, good Vulcan, I need your help. Vulcan, or Hephaestus, the god who made Zeus's thunderbolts. And Virgil gives us a bit more information. That was a king, one of the 7 besieging Thebes. He scorned and would seem still to go on scorning God and treat him lightly. What does it mean to scorn God? Treat him lightly. What does it mean scorning somebody? Treating someone lightly. What did he do to Jupiter here? He provoked him. He disrespected him. He says, go ahead, Jupiter. Come on and punish me some more. I won't care. I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of showing any discomfort here. This disrespect for... Now notice here he's in hell anyway, even though it was Jupiter, one of the Greek gods that he was disrespecting. What do we call this sin of disrespecting God, of speaking in this tempting way? Those with me. Yes, blasphemy. Blasphemy. Japanis is there for blasphemy, for speaking disrespectfully of Jupiter in his case, but here transferred on to God. As far as he knew, Jupiter was God. And blasphemy, these are the ones who are stretched out on the ground. These are the ones who are stretched out on the ground. We're not going to read the 2 cantos after this one where we see the other 2 sins that are in this circle. The other 2 sins that are being punished here, in addition to blasphemy, are usury and sodomy. The usurers are the ones who are crouching, and the sodomites are the ones who are wandering. What are these sins? So blasphemy, we talked about blasphemy, cursing God. What about usury and sodomy? What are these sins?
Isn't usually the one there are in India that sells people like that one?
I think you're thinking of simony,
Oh yeah.
which is further down. It's sort of like simony. It does have to do with selling. Usury. Usury is, in a sort of broader sense, is taking interest on a loan. And other sorts of funny things that you can do with money that sort of create wealth out of nothing. People don't like to talk about usury anymore, but it's... Anyway, we'll get into that. So the usurers here, this is their crime here isn't directly against God, but against sort of the way that human work and human society go. They're taking this money and they're, without doing any work, producing value, or supposedly producing value. There's that perversion there. And then sodomy. What's that one? Refers to various sorts of non-reproductive sexual acts, but especially and most particularly ones between 2 men. Is this here? Those people are not with lust here. It's a sin of violence, seen as a perversion of the purpose of the sexual act, which has this, you learn about that in biology class. It's part of the reproductive system. and you start to abuse that for not a reproductive purpose. It's a sort of violence against the order of things. So the general category here that you see listed in the book there are these are sins of violence, but here not against others, not against themselves, but against, as you mentioned, God and nature. Sin against nature being like a sin against God in that he's the one who created the universe, created the way that things work and are supposed to work. And so then by acting deliberately and violently against that, that's what's here. It's even worse than the violence against self. Not surprising that Dante would put sins against violence against God lower than violence against other people here. And these are the three sins, sodomy, usury, and blasphemy that Dante puts here. All right, and we see Campanius, you should be familiar with him. But the other part here that we see in Canto 14, it's really actually 14 to 16, if you want to get technical. But we're not going to read 15 and 16. And then we sort of shift tracks here for the second half of the canto. But before we go to that, let's return to what this burning sand looks like. We talked about the sand. We talked about this fire falling from the sky, these naked souls in these various positions. But what else is there? There are a couple of there's one other thing mentioned that Dante sees there. If you look at pages 196 and 197. All right. Can we get it here? No, sorry, we're about to get there. The next thing. One other comment quickly. Dante mentions, so this is sand here. The choice of sand is deliberate. Not only do you get the heat of the sand, that's something that we've probably all experienced, the hot sand on a sunny day, but also what's different about sand from dirt, for example. And Dante mentions this aspect of it on page 196. What about sand in particular is different? On page 196. Anybody? Lines 7 through 9. What can sand not do, generally speaking, that dirt can? What can you do with dirt that you can't do with sand? What does Dante say in line 9?
Oh, yeah. You can plant anything.
Right, you can't grow things in sand, generally speaking. I mean, certain cacti, I guess. But generally speaking, you can't grow things in sand. It's not fertile. It's not productive. In addition, sand, you can't burn it. You can't set sand on fire. You could melt it if you get it hot enough. But here, this sand, so it's not fertile sand. It's not reproductive. Right? Connected to the lack of productivity of some of the sins being punished here. Also, it's set on fire, which is not the way the sand is supposed to work. We get this other twisting of the way things work. And also, the fire falling from the sky, what does Dante say it sort of looks like? What does he compare it to? Page 197. What does Dante compare to the... What does he say it looks like? I guess snowstorm. Snow. Fire and snow are like opposites of each other. Fire falling from the sky instead of snow here. So notice here this idea of these sins going against the nature of things. Whether it has to do with sort of the natural order and sexuality, whether it has to do with money and the way that people interact and work for each other, whether it has to do with man's relationship with God. These things are sort of broken and twisted. All right, so, but the other thing they see here, we get the return of something we had seen a couple of cantos ago. So we're on page 198, and Dante has just been warned by Virgil as they go walking along, don't put your feet, line 74, upon the burning sand, but keep them well within the wooded line. They're going to stay just inside the edge of the forest here and not walk on the sand, because Dante, again, needs to watch out for the dangers in hell. So picking up from line 76. Without exchanging words, we reached a place where a narrow stream came gushing from the woods. Its reddish water still runs fear through me. Like the one that issues from the Beulah cave, whose waters are shared by prostitutes downstream. It wore its way across the desert sand. This river's bed and banks were made of stone. So were the tops on both its sides. And then I understood this was our way across. Among the other marvels I have shown you, from the time we made our entrance through the gate whose threshold welcomes every evil soul, your eyes have not discovered anything as remarkable as this stream you see here, extinguishing the flames above its path. These were my master's words, and I once implored him to provide me with the food for which he had given me the appetite. What do they see as they walk around the edge of this sand here? What do they come to? A river. What river is this? Well, how does Dante describe it? We reached a place where a narrow stream came gushing from the woods. What does he say next?
It's reddish water to land.
It's reddish water. What river is this? There.
From the fire.
Right, it's the Phlegethon. The river doesn't just flow in that loop around the outside of the forest, but in fact it flows through the forest and then through the sands here. And its banks, its bed and banks were made of stone. So it's sand in this ring, except for where the river is flowing. And then there's stone. And when the fire falls onto the river, it's extinguished. Dante's going to tell us, Virgil is going to tell us a little bit more about the rivers now, starting on line 94. In the middle of the sea, there was a wasteland, he immediately began, that is known as Crete, under whose king the world knew innocence. There is a mountain there that was called Ida, then happy in its verdure and its streams, now deserted, like an old discarded thing. Rhea chose it once as a safe cradle for her son, and to conceal his presence better, she had her servants scream loud when he cried. In the mountain's core, an ancient man stands tall. He has his shoulders turned towards Damietta and faces Rome as though it were his mirror. His head is fashioned of the finest gold. Pure silver are his arms and hands and chest. From there to where his legs spread, he is brass. The rest of him is all of chosen iron, except his right foot, which is terracotta. He puts more weight on this foot than the other. Every part of him, except the gold, is broken by a fissure dripping tears down to his feet, where they collect to erode the cavern's rock. From stone to stone they drain down here, becoming rivers, the Acron, Styx, and Phlegethon, then overflow down through this tight canal until they fall to where all falling ends. They form Cocytus. What that pool is like I need not tell you. You will see yourself. And I to him, if this small stream beside us has its source, as you have told me, in our world, why have we seen it only on this ledge? And he to me, you know this place is round. And though your journey has been long, circling toward the bottom, turning only to the left, you still have not completed a full circle. So you should never look surprised as now if you see something you've not seen before. And I again, where, master, shall we find Lethe and Phlegethon? You omit the first and say the other forms from the rain of tears. I am very happy when you question me, he said, but that the blood red water boiled should answer certainly one of your questions. And Lethe you shall see, but beyond this valley, at a place where souls collect to wash themselves when penitence has freed them of their guilt. Now it is time to leave this edge of woods, he added. Be sure you follow close behind me. The margins are our road. They do not burn, and all the flames above them are extinguished. All right. These 2 pages, 199 and 200, we get the old man of Crete described here. Let's take a look at, so first off, what is Crete? Where is Crete? Yes. Tell me a little bit more about it. Well, actually, yeah, Virgil says in the middle of the sea, there's a wasteland called Crete, which is island south of Greece or in southern Greece, which in Greek mythology, this mountain, they called it Ida. And what happened there? What does Virgil tell Dante happened on Ida in lines 100 to 102? What's its claim to fame? This is from Greek and Roman mythology. What's its claim to fame? Line 100. Rhea chose it once as a safe cradle for her son. And to conceal his presence better, she had her servants scream loud when he cried. Is anyone familiar with that? Story from Greek myth. Not many names are mentioned. You can take a look at the notes, but we'll talk about that more tomorrow. That's all we have time for today. Remember, tomorrow, Canto 13 questions due. Tomorrow we'll do some review for the test on Friday, and thesis and intro due on Friday. Thank you.